Hey, sweet people. We have the Chromebook back. Yay! And it wasn't anything to do with the Chromebook. It was my internet. My daughter came over and it gave her the same. Yeah, I got the ring lights on, so. But it makes my color so much better. The color. Anyway, Chromebook's all fixed, but when I recorded on my phone, I've already, take two, I think I said that. Already read this one time today, and I couldn't get it uploaded because all my memory almost is eaten up on my phone. I've already deleted everything I can delete. Or offloaded. Anyway. And yes, the possum sitting on top of my big squishy sheep. Chapter 18, Class Day. The clerk of the weather evidently has a regard for young people and sends sunshine for class days as often as he can. An especially lovely one shone over Plumfield as this interesting anniversary came round, bringing the usual accompaniments of roses, strawberries, white-gowned girls, beaming youths, proud friends, and stately dignitaries full of well-earned satisfaction with the yearly harvest. As Lawrence College was a mixed one, the presence of young women as students gave the occasion a grace and animation entirely wanting where the picturesque half of creation appear merely as spectators. The hands that turn the pages of wise books also possess the skill to decorate the hall with flowers. Eyes tired with study shone with hospitable warmth on the assembling guests, and under the white muslins beat hearts as full of ambition, hope, and courage as those agitating the broadcloth of the ruling sex. I don't know what those little something on here. The Kindle. College Hill, Parnassus, and Old Plum swarmed with cheery faces as guests, students, and professors hurried to and fro in pleasant excitement of arriving and receiving. Everyone was welcomed cordially, whether he rolled up in a fine carriage or trudged afoot to see the good son or daughter come to honor on the happy day that rewarded many a mutual sacrifice. Mr. Laurie and his wife were on the reception committee, and their lovely house was overflowing. Mrs. Meg with Daisy and Joe, as aides, was in demand among the girls, helping on belated toilettes, giving an eye to spreads, and directing the decorations. Mrs. Joe had her hands full as president's lady and the mother of Ted, for it took all the power and skill of that energetic woman to get her son into his Sunday best. Not that he objected to be well arrayed, far from it. He adored good clothes, and owing to his great height, already reveled in a dress suit bequeathed him by a dandy friend. The effect was very funny, but he would wear it in spite of the jeers of his mates, and sighed vainly for a beaver hat. Because his stern parent drew the line there, he pleaded that English lads of 10 wore them and were no end nobby. But his mother only answered with a consoling pat of the yellow mane. "My child, you are absurd enough now. If I let you add a tall hat, Plumfield wouldn't hold either of us. Such would be the scorn and derision of all beholders. Content yourself with looking like the ghost of a waiter. And don't ask for the most ridiculous headgear in the known world." Denied this noble badge of manhood, Ted soothed his wounded soul by appearing in collars of amazing height and stiffness, and ties which were the wonder of all female eyes. This freak was a sort of vengeance on his hard-hearted mother, for the callers drove the laundress to despair, never being just right, and the ties required such art and time that 3 women sometimes labored long before, like Beau Brummel, he turned from a heap of failures with the welcoming words, "That will do." Rob was devoted on these trying occasions, his own toilette being distinguished only by its speed, simplicity, and neatness. Ted was usually in a frenzy before he was suited, and roars, whistles, commands, and groans were heard from the den wherein the lion raged and the lamb patiently toiled. Mrs. Joe bore it till boots were hurled and a rain of hairbrushes set in. Then, fearing for the safety of her eldest, she would go to the rescue, and by the wise mixture of fun and authority finally succeed in persuading Ted that he was a thing of beauty, if not a joy forever. At last he would stalk majestically forth, imprisoned in collars compared to those worn by Dickens' afflicted Biller were trifles not worth mentioning. The dress coat was a little loose in the shoulders, but allowed a noble expanse of glossy bosom to be seen, and with a delicate handkerchief negligently drooping at the proper angle, had a truly fine effect. Boots that shone, and likewise pinched, appeared at one end of the long black clothespin, as Josie called him, and a youthful but solemn face at the other, carried at an angle which, if long continued, would have resulted in spinal curvature. Light gloves, a cane, an old bitter drop in the cup of joy, an ignominious straw hat, not to mention a choice floweret in the buttonhole, and a festoon of watchguard below, finished off this impressive boy. "How's that for style?" he asked, appearing to his mother and cousins, whom he was to escort to the hall on this particular occasion. A shout of laughter greeted him, followed by exclamations of horror, for he had artfully added the little blonde mustache he often wore when acting. It was very becoming, and seemed the only balm to heal the wound made by the loss of the beloved hat. "Take it off this moment, you audacious boy. What would your father say to such a prank on this day, when we must all behave our best?" said Mrs. Joe, trying to frown, but privately thinking that among the many youths about her, none were so beautiful and original as her long son. "Let him wear it, Auntie. It's so becoming. No one will ever guess he isn't 18 at least," cried Josie, to whom disguise of any sort was always charming. "Father won't observe it. He'll be absorbed in his big wigs and the girls. No matter if he does, he'll enjoy the joke and introduce me as his oldest son. Rob is nowhere when I'm in full fig," and Ted took the stage with a tragic stalk like Hamlet in a tailcoat and choker. "My son, obey me," and when Mrs. Joe spoke in that tone, her word was law. Later, however, the mustache appeared, and many strangers firmly believed that there were 3 young bears. So Ted found one ray of joy to light his gloom. Mr. Bear was a proud and happy man when, at the appointed hour, he looked upon the parterre of youthful faces before him, thinking of the little gardens in which he had hopefully and faithfully sowed good seed years ago, and from which this beautiful harvest seemed to have sprung. Mr. March's fine old face shone with the serenest satisfaction, for this was the dream of his life fulfilled after patient waiting, and the love and reverence in the countenances of the eager young men and women looking up at him plainly showed that the reward he coveted was his in fullest measure. Laurie always effaced himself on these occasions as much as courtesy would permit, for everyone spoke gratefully in ode, poem, and oration of the founder of the college and noble dispenser of his beneficence. The three sisters beamed with pride as they sat among the ladies, enjoying as only women can the honor done the men they loved, while the original plums, as the younger ones called themselves, regarded the whole affair as their work, receiving the curious admiration or envious glances of strangers with a mixture of dignity and delight rather than comical to behold. The music was excellent, and well it might be when Apollo waved the baton. The poems were, as usual on such occasions, of varied excellence, as the youthful speakers tried to put old truths into new words and made them forceful by the enthusiasm of the earnest faces and fresh voices. It was beautiful to see the eager intents with which the girls listened to some brilliant brother student and applauded him with a rustle as of wind over a bed of flowers. It was still more significant and pleasant to watch the young men's faces when a slender white figure stood out among the background of black-coated dignitaries, and with cheeks that flushed and paled and lips that trembled till earnest purpose conquered maiden fear, spoke to them straight out of a woman's heart and brain concerning the hopes and doubts, the aspirations and rewards all must know, desire and labor for. This clear, sweet voice seemed to reach and rouse all that was noblest in the souls of these students, and to set a seal upon the years of comradeship which made them sacred and memorable forever. Alice Heath's oration was unanimously pronounced a success of the day, for without being flowery or sentimental, as is too apt to be the case with these first efforts of youthful orators, it was earnest, sensible, and so inspiring that she left the stage in a storm of applause, the good fellows being as much fired by her stirring appeal to march shoulder to shoulder as if she had chanted the Marseillaise then and there. One young man was so excited that he nearly rushed out of his seat to receive her as she hastened to hide herself among her mates, who welcomed her with faces full of tender pride and tearful eye. A prudent sister detained him, however, and in a moment he was able to listen with composure to the president's remarks. So they were worth listening to, for Mr. Bear spoke like a father to the children whom he was dismissing to the battle of life, and his tender, wise, and helpful words lingered in their hearts long after the praise was forgotten. Then came other exercises peculiar to Plumfield, and in the end, why the roof did not fly off when the sturdy lungs of the excited young men pealed out the closing hymn will forever be a mystery but it remained firm, and only the fading garlands vibrated as the waves of music rolled up and died away, leaving sweet echoes to haunt the place for another year. Dinners and spreads crammed the afternoon, and sunset came a slight lull as everyone sought some brief repose before the festivities of the evening began. The president's reception was one of the enjoyable things in store, also dancing on Parnassus and as much strolling, singing, and flirting as could be compressed into a few hours by youths and maidens just out of school. Carriages were rolling about in gay groups on piazzas, lawns, and window seats. Idly speculated as to who the distinguished guest might be. The appearance of a very dusty vehicle loaded with trunks at Mr. Bear's hospitably open door caused much curious comment among the loungers, especially as two rather foreign-looking gentlemen sprang out, flowered by two young ladies, all four being greeted with cries of joy and much embracing by the Bears. Then they all disappeared into the house, the luggage followed, and the watchers were left to wonder who the mysterious strangers were, till a fair collegian declared that they must be the professor's nephews, one of whom was expected on his wedding journey. She was right. Franz proudly presented his blonde and buxom bride, and she was hardly kissed and blessed when Emil led up his bonny English Mary with the rapturous announcement, "Aunt Jo, here's another daughter. Have you room for my wife too?" There could be no doubt of that, and Mary, with difficulty, rescued from the glad embraces of her new relatives, who, remembering all the young pair had suffered together, felt that this was the natural and happy ending of the long voyage so perilously begun. "But why not tell us and let us be ready for two brides instead of one?" asked Mrs. Joe, looking as usual rather demoralizing in a wrapper and crimping pins, having rushed down from her chamber where she was preparing for labors of the evening. "Well, I remembered what a good joke you all considered Uncle Laurie's marriage, and I thought I'd give you another nice little surprise," laughed Emil. "I'm off duty, and it seemed best to take advantage of wind and tide and come along as convoy to the old boy here. We hoped to get in last night, but couldn't fetch it. So here we are in time for the end of the jollification anyway. Ah, my sons, it is too filling full to see you both so happy and again in the old home. I have no words to outpour my gratitude, and can only ask of the dear Gott in Himmel to bless and keep you all," cried Professor Bear, trying to gather all four into his arms at once, while tears rolled down his cheeks and his English failed him. An April shower cleaned the air and relieved the full hearts of the happy family. Then, of course, everyone began to talk. Franz and Ludmilla in German with Uncle, Emil and Franz with the aunts, and round with this group gathered the young folk, clamoring to hear all about the wreck, the rescue, and the homeward voyage. It was a very different story than the written one, and as they listened to Emil's graphic words and Mary's soft voice breaking in now and then with some fact that belonged of the courage, patience, and self-sacrifice he so at the crowd. Listen to Emil's graphic words, Mary's soft voice breaking in now and then to add some fact that brought out the courage, patience, and self-sacrifice he so lightly touched upon. It became a solemn and pathetic thing to see and hear these happy creatures tell the great dangers and deliverance. I never hear the patter of rain now that I don't want to say my prayers. And as for a new woman, I don't like to take my hat off to everyone for that. Take my hat off for every one of them, for they are braver than any man I ever saw, said Emil with a new gravity that this was becoming to him, as the gentlemen's with which he treated everyone. Whew, y'all, I'm getting sleepy again. A little over 20 minutes, so I'm going to have to stop there. The lines are starting to run together. I hate it when I don't read very well. Sorry, hope you get the gist anyway. I've been missing y'all. I have had a great day though. My daughter's been here. We both had our cars taken to the garage. They both had recalls. Hondas. Always getting recalls on the airbags. Always. But anyway, glad we got that done. And now we are crafting. Well, she is. She's cross-stitching. And I've been trying to knit and crochet. Still not the granny yet. I just want to do what I want to do. Mostly what I'm doing is going. Okay, love y'all. See you tomorrow, I hope. Live at 5. Love you. Oh. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. Bye-bye.